Center, astronomers confirm Planet 9, earthquakes, volcanoes, pole shifts, geomagnetic collapse, radiation exposure, nuclear winter, underground bunkers, orbit charts, seismic calculations, cataclysm, tsunamis, leaked classified Navy map, Edgar Casey survival and insurance alternatives, Terral03, Leak Project. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this edition of Leak Project. I'm your host, Rex Bear, and we have Terral from Terral03 Blackstar with us again. Last time we had him on the show, it was a huge success. There's been a lot of requests to get him back on with the information he has in connection to earthquakes, earth changes, the Darkstar. Now, it's interesting because recently my producer reached out to somebody from NASA that says they think they discovered a new planet. And this gentleman said he didn't have time to come on our show, but he would be more than happy to let us use some excerpts that he's got of a possibility that there's this planet on the outskirts of our solar system that's actually causing some pretty serious planetary changes here in our solar system. And for those that have been listening to Leak Project now for either a week, a month, or a year, you guys know that I'm definitely neutral on Nibiru. I'm very agnostic towards that. But the more research I do about a planet X, a 10th planet, there's definitely a 10th planet out there, folks. I mean, there's thousands of them, according to NASA now, that are outside of the asteroid belt. So essentially, there's a planet X somewhere, and some of these Earth changes that we're seeing now could definitely be caused by some enormous planetary bodies that we can't physically see right now because of their size and the gravitation and everything else. So we're going to dive deep in that today. Terral, I really appreciate you spending time with us here at the Leak Project. How the heck are you?
I'm a little bit under the weather, as I was mentioning earlier, the walking pneumonia, but I'm functional and can definitely, probably helps a little bit because my tendency is to speak too quickly, and I get criticized for that. So I'm definitely, you're getting a slower version of me today. But as far as that extra planet, I'd wonder with the background constellation of that and how they're going to attribute it to the changes that we're going to talk about right here, because the object that we're tracking is close. Mm-hmm. It is inside of Jupiter orbit. It's been moving left in the orbit diagram rapidly, 12-degree average for the last decade. And if this thing was on the outer skirts, it cannot possibly move that rapidly. It's impossible. So I'm looking forward to sharing with you. I appreciate you giving me the offer to return and share more information.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get into the information you have. You were showing me some charts before we started the show here, some earthquake status information, and I think that'd be great to get out to our audience. So I'll go ahead and give you the floor.
Okay. Yeah. I apologize. I'm going to clear my throat every now and then.
No problem.
Okay. First of all, you can get more information, background information on, because we're going to get in some kind of deep topics, magnetoportal connections and things, magnetopause reversal. So you can always get more information by going to my website right here. This is how you subscribe and support the research. If you want to join a survival group, for example, there are lots of people are getting together. I've never seen it like this before. We have more than 50 group leaders now and over 100 families in our survival group program. And the first thing you do is you click this button. If you do not want to use PayPal, then you can click on this contact Terral button right here, and I'll send you a snail mail address. So that's where we would start. And then, because I can begin by showing you the most recent newsletter. If I can get that baby to pop up here. And I guess we can give you a full screen. Then, so we're down here towards the bottom. Let's get back up here to the top. This is kind of what you're looking at. These come out every week on Thursdays to get people ready for the weekend. We do the research all week, and then typically people are really busy and they cannot keep up with everything. We've got all the earthquake information. This is a seismic chart that we're using. This is the week over week information. Right now we're in week 38 of the orbit cycle, and what we're doing is charting this information and then graphing it and noticing the patterns that's going on. And what the patterns reveal, these red values are this is where we deviate the weekly values for each of these categories when they deviate from what's in the historical record. So this shouldn't happen. We shouldn't have 2 sub-20 values in the 5s. And just recently we had 3 sub-20 values for the 5 magnitude earthquakes. And these sub-200 values, very disturbing. When this happens, this is extremely rare that something like that, when you go back and look, the further back you go, you're not going to see any red letters because everything was happening kind of normally. The more of these red letters show up is it's an indication the black star is getting closer and closer. So we're going to keep up with the seismic patterns in the weekly publications, and then we're going to point out the hot spots, things that are happening, and it's the patterns that are tipping us off as to black star position. And right now it's between the sun and you want a little graphic on that? I can show you where the black star is. And this is going to be the Planet 9 story, I think, is what you're covering. let's get this.
I find it fascinating that the astronomer Brown, the same gentleman that basically downgraded Pluto, is now boasting on the media about Planet Nine. It's like they intentionally downgraded Pluto several years ago, so that when they did decide, which is now essentially to say, yeah, we found this other planet, instead of calling it Planet X and freaking everybody out, they call it Planet Nine. Oh yeah, it's just Planet Nine, no big deal.
Well, you have to demote Pluto. You have to. It's a Kuiper Belt object, and there are others. There are many, and they're continuing to discover more. So unless you're going to have 25 planets, then you're going to have to demote Pluto. You have to. So that's just I think that's the right decision, and it's just a normal thing to do. It doesn't compare all those Kuiper Belt objects and that are between 30 and 50 astronomical units away. They're not going to compare to the main planets that are in our solar system. Very recognizable gas giants. Right, so that was a good decision. The Planet 9 object is going to be much too far away to it's not going to move very much in a constellation, in a background constellation. If they knew where it was, suppose that it's in the Virgo constellation, it's very, very far away. It's orbiting the sun in one way or another, and it's going to move very, very, very slowly, very far away. So it's going to stay in the same background constellation for quite a long time. So whenever the Earth comes around, so we're moving 66,000 miles per hour. And as we're coming around and we come between that object and the sun, then we're going to have a gravitational pull there. And that's going to cause and that's just the gravity part of the equation. We're also having a harmonic situation with our solar system where the planets come into alignment and store energy and then release that energy. And that's what we're expecting to happen as the Earth goes into this helium focusing cone we're getting ready to go through. The interstellar wind comes out of this constellation, Ophiuchus, right here. It comes in this way. There's a helium focusing cone that is created by that. Let's go back to the actual time, and you'll see that Earth is getting ready to pass behind the sun relative to Ophiuchus. And there's been anomalies showing up in the readings for the last 3 or 4 years. The backside alignments were happening right on schedule, right exactly on schedule, 2010, 2011, 2012, exactly to the day we were able to predict, for example, 2011, 2012. That's whenever the Earth was on the backside of the sun relative to the black star. At the time, it was moving through the Leo constellation, just below the ecliptic plane. You can see the ecliptic plane right here. This object's just below the ecliptic plane, and it's moving this way. So when Fukushima happened, we were in alignment over here. Then when the recent event happened on April the 28th, 2016, the Vanuatu quake, the black star was over here. So whenever you take these quake alignments and these big quake events, then you can use the solar system as a compass, and you're tracking the black star moving left rapidly. I mean, it's moving fast compared to an object that's very, very far away. So the Earth changes that we're going to talk about have nothing to do with a celestial object that's way out in space. This thing is definitely close. Otherwise, Earth would come around and align with Virgo every year, and we'd have the event every year about the same date. See, so the seismic indicators are pointing to the fact that we have an interloper in the inner solar system, and it's moving left in the orbit diagram. Then we've been tracking it since Leo, and it's gone all the way through Virgo, and now it's just about right here in the Libra constellation. But this guy is already inside of Jupiter orbit path. Pretty darn sure about that. There's a lot of indicators that are telling us that. And if you're looking, we're on November the 4th, and Ophiuchus is right here. The Earth is preparing to enter the leading edge of that helium focusing cone right here. So what happened from 2011, 12, and 13, the Earth was over in this position, and we're getting our alignment event. But when we came around and went to outside orbit position, the 90-degree angle, and then came behind the sun, these events were happening 2 to 3 weeks too late. That's impossible if we're dealing with an object, the same object that we came between in April. That's impossible unless we're dealing with something more than just gravity. And that's what the research is leading us to now. Jason, James, Bill, and David are the physicist type people. They've come on recently, and they're helping me to understand more about solar system harmonics and about how the solar system is very similar to a molecule, and this being the center, the nucleus, and how these charges build up and released. And it appears to me, where we are now in the research, that this helium focusing cone has there's much more going on here than just helium, just some neutral element. And I think that the reason that we've been having these events late is because there's something to do with the solar system. And you notice how it's trying to make an X here, and the Earth coming around. And when the moon comes around, just about here, November the 28th is the day that we're expecting, because we are going to be coming into this helium focusing cone. The moon's going to come into alignment. It's going to swing around, and right around here is where we're going to have our next backside alignment. Last year's alignment was on November the 24th, 2015, and that gave us the pair of 7.6 Peru quakes, more than 600 kilometers deep, over in this area right here where we just had this event. Let me see, what's the size on this baby? Is this a 6.4 we just had right here? And when I show you the graphic, if I pulled up volume 42 right here, then I wanted to show you this graphic.
42, the sum of all things.
Yeah.
You see that movie, The Hitchhiker's Galaxy to the Universe?
I saw some of that.
I'm digressing here, but it took them 1,000,000 years to come up with the answer to everything, and it was 42. Yeah, and while you're pulling that up, I was just going to say, I'm glad you brought up how the universe is kind of like if you look at it at a molecular level, if you look at an atom, how there's protons, neutrons, electrons oscillating in certain frequencies around the core, and then if you take the solar system as kind of an example of that, it would parallel a lot. And many years ago, I was probably 19 at the time, I had that vision essentially of everything that we're looking at, this as above, so below. It's like a reflection of everything. That's incredible.
It wasn't 42. This is the graphic that I'm trying to show you right here. What we have going on inside the Earth are these rising magma plume. Magma plume article is right here, the life science, mysterious blobs in Earth's mantle. This is in the transition zone. Underneath this transition zone is metal. On top of this transition zone is rock. This is the transition that is more glassy. Goes from about 450 to 660 kilometers down inside the Earth, and we're having earthquakes down in there in this area, which we've been having. Then it adds, this is becoming a reservoir, which is confined by buoyancy barriers. And so these big quakes that we're having that are deep down in the transition zone are adding to this blob. This blob is extending from Indonesia, which is the origination zone, pointing at Chile on this side. And this blob here is what's responsible. You see these little horns? These horns push upwards as it's trying to push through those buoyancy barriers, and it actually lifts from the magma on top, and then it causes these 5 magnitude earthquakes. So they crop up here, then they disappear. They crop up and they disappear. That's this magma deep underground. It's being contained inside these buoyancy barriers, and it's trying to break through. So what we do is we follow the new volcanic eruptions, because this has a big influence on that. The earthquakes are becoming more connected to the volcanism, with these deep earthquakes adding to the reservoir, and then it's a matter of where the pressure goes. And this blob right here is already pushing north towards the California quake storm area. And if we come back over here, then we are, look at the big events. The red values that I showed you were in the chart were there because of the extreme low values. And we know that the peak is coming the second 2 weeks of November. We already know that. We've known that a year ahead of time. And based on, see, I can show you in any of these charts, because we're just adding 1 week to each chart. We can go back to 2015, and we're still in 2016. Right here, we had 5 7 magnitude earthquakes in just a 4-week period. And this is our backside alignment event that happened November 24th, 2015. We're going to have similar situation this year. All this big activity is going to be taking place moving forward. This is what the evidence is saying, and that's what's going to happen. And we're already seeing we've already gone through the little dip in the lull. So we have an earth change uptick period that we've been going through since the middle of August. So we had right after, when I was doing the last show, we were entering the uptick period. Then we have the lull, everything kind of drops off. And on this cycle, they dropped off to dangerously low levels. That's telling us that that magma reservoir is being added to, and the energy is being stored for release later. Now we're getting to later. That's going to be the second 2 weeks of November is going to be the peak, but we're already seeing from this activity, especially when you see a transition zone big event. And in my update report, this was predicted, that 6.6 they had over there, because we had the tall stack of flags, the precursor quakes. So you could see it coming, boom. But this one we didn't see coming. This is a deep down in the transition zone, and we haven't had anything like that on this side of the planet in this area since the investigation started. These deep earthquakes that began shifting through Nepal happened after the 7.8 Nepal. That was April 25th, 2015. A month after that, in May, Japan had the record deep 677 kilometer down just below the transition zone, and that began a new seismic pattern around the Pacific Ocean Ring of Fire. All these zeros that you see in the chart All these zeros you see has never happened before. We had a tectonic reset with week 34 in 2015. This is the 8.3 chili quake right here, 12 6 magnitude earthquakes in that single week. And then look what followed. We did not have a single 6 magnitude earthquake anywhere in the world for 5 weeks. That's never happened before.
So why do you think that is?
Because the pressure shift is moving from the Pacific Ocean Ring of Fire that we've been focusing on into the Atlantic Ocean. That's why you're seeing so much more new activity along the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. So this pressure is becoming, where it was Pacific Ocean Ring of Fire, is now becoming a global phenomenon. And the fact that we had this big, deep earthquake over here under Italy, right here, that's strong evidence that my hypothesis is right, that these deep earthquakes that originate over here in Indonesia are making their way around the planet. They're moving. So that magma blob that I showed you is another formation is moving this way. We had the predicted Aleutian quake event, Cleveland, last 2 weeks in a row. That pressure is going to continue pushing into Alaska to the end of November. We should have new volcanic eruptions. Let's get some of this off the map. We should have new volcanic eruptions. We're already having them here just about where this earthquake is taking place, right here in Cleveland. And we predicted when the activity was still in Kamchatka that it was going to move over here. And now it's going to move up into Alaska. And we should be seeing reports of that. And I'm also expecting over here on the other side of the planet, new reports are going to come out about the supervolcano under Germany, because the magma upwelling that's going to be caused by this earthquake. That magma is going to come from deep inside, it's going to push, and you're going to hear rumbling from the supervolcano that's in my cursor, in my circle right here. Very similar to Yellowstone is what they have over there, similar to what we have right here. So to give you an idea, we've had 3 or 4 tectonic resets since the investigation started that we've identified going back to 2004 with the 9.3 Sumatra quake. That was the one with the big tsunami. That event is on the Black Star event timeline. Earth passed between the Black Star and the Earth when that event happened. And we know that by doing the math. When we come forward and we add our 12 days per year, it's going to be 12.8 per year going up to the Chile event, February 27th, 2010. Then we keep moving forward that 12 days. We had the 8.8 Chile quake, Fukushima the next year. That was predicted within 4 days by my research. Guerrero the next year. Then things got off. We had so many earthquakes, I couldn't tell which one was my near-side alignment event. Things picked up again April 25th on with the 7.8 Nepal quake, and that is on the 188-day cycle that we discovered when the investigation, about a month into the investigation, everybody was talking about 188-day cycle, and it turned out to be real. It turned out to be true, and the 7.8 Nepal quake was on the 188-day cycle still. So what that's telling us is that the Black Star has been moving along an elliptical orbit coming from this direction, right of Cancer, just below the ecliptic plane and moving this way. And it's on an elliptical orbit, but it's been slowing down proportionate to how close it gets to the sun. And this is because of the relationship that this binary star, it's invisible, it's collapsed, it's a remnant body, but it has mismatched polarity with our sun, which means that instead of 2 magnets that are sucked together, they're turned the wrong way. And this magnet, this Black Star is a magnet, and it's coming in and being repelled by the sun at the same time that it's being pulled in. So what's happening is this is a transitional orbit. This thing is very special. It doesn't behave like any other object that's here. The subatomic particles are all pushed together, so there's no space in between. So 1 tablespoon of this matter equals 2 Ghazi pyramids. This thing is very high density. It is likely only 2 to 3 kilometers in diameter. It's going to be very small in diameter, but it has powerful magnetic polarity. And if it was like a neutron star of the same size, then if it's only 10 kilometers across, then it's twice the mass of our sun. So my feeling is that it's going to be 2 to 3 kilometers across, and the seismic pattern is telling us where the object is. And as Earth is going around the sun, then we're having opportunities to move towards the Black Star when it was in Leo. So we know where the Black Star is in the solar system, because we know when we're making this right triangle. We come out here. Well, first of all, we have a backside alignment. That's where we're coming up on November 28th. Then we have about a 3-month period where we come around in orbit, and we're actually moving away from the Black Star because it's moving this way, and we're moving this way. So what happens is this magnetic portal connection, because we're connected to the Black Star, like we are the sun through a magnetic portal connection. So as we're moving away, that magnetic portal connection is getting longer. The amount of electromagnetism being injected into our planet is being reduced. So we're watching the seismic values going down, 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 all the way to this 90-degree angle. Once we hit that 90-degree angle, we have the smallest seismic numbers. But whenever we start heading towards the black star like this, that magnetic portal connection is shortening by 50, then 60,000 miles per hour. That means we have a big, strong seismic uptick because Earth is being injected with this redirected solar electromagnetism. The black star is actually siphoning its energy from the sun, which is making it go to sleep. That's the reason the heliosphere shrunk 25% in the last decade. Planet 9 cannot do that from the outer solar system. It's impossible. But a nearby star that's this close has a magnetic portal connection to the sun, and as it's getting closer, those internal conduits inside that magnetic portal connection are becoming activated. There's two primary kinds. The active conduits on the inside, you're basically looking at what looks like a slice from a tree ring. You got the red ones on the inside, and you got the more white ones on the outside. The white ones are the inactive conduits. They're not conducting anything. They're like vacuum tubes, and they provide insulation for the magnetic portal connection. And then the internal ones are the ones that pressurize, conducting billions and billions of tons of subatomic particles rapidly passing through there. And as those pressures fluctuate, the magnetic portal connection actually grows and shrinks and grows and shrinks, and it does it in a rhythm that is detectable. So whenever we're moving towards the black star, we're receiving all these extra doses of electromagnetism. If you remember April, we went through April. That's because April we had record seismicity. We had 7, 8, 9 new volcanic eruptions every week. At outside orbit position, we only have 2. So that's what I mean. There's patterns. So as the Earth moves towards the black star, let's put the black star in Libra where it is. All you have to do is bring the Earth around till you get just about the 90-degree angle. It's going to be just about here, and you can see it's going to be in February. Yeah, we're not quite there yet. Libra, we're not quite there yet. Right about the middle of February. That's the week we're going to have the lowest seismicity, and then Earth is going to start moving towards the black star, and we're going to reach a peak right here. It's just going to be about May the 2nd. So the reason this is happening, and we now understand enough about the science to realize it's because of these lengthening and shortening magnetic portal connections, and the magnetopause reversals, very important to keep up with that. March the 12th, 2012 is a very important date in this investigation. And see if I can minimize this, then I can show you why. We're just going to open up this Dropbox folder right here. You guys have access to all this information. There's hundreds of files in here on nanotechnology, on things, radio shows, documents that I got from Deacon John. He was one of my research analysts for a while. The owner of Revolution Radio is a HARP specialist. He sent me a lot of information. So what we're going to look at here is the ISLA GIF file. And this is going to be pretty darn amazing. Let me find it here, right here. Let me just click on that bad boy and let you have a look at Earth magnetosphere and note the date, 3/12/2012. This is the bow shock. This is the nighttime side of our Earth. The solar wind's coming from this way. And you notice that the magnetosphere flips around because there's a subatomic particle source coming from the Leo constellation. Remember 312 right here. So whenever we open this guy back up and we take this, we're on March, let's just put it to March the 12th. Earth is in the same position each year. And let's look at the background constellation. And you're going to see the Leo constellation. This is where the black star was in 2012, whenever we were tracking it. So if we go to this let's connect a little bit more of the dots here, give you a little more information on what Project Black Star is about. We're going to go to this date, March the 12th, 2012, and look at Mars. You see, it's behind Mars in orbit. It's between the sun, the Earth, and the Leo constellation at the same time. Okay, so you would think that because Earth magnetosphere is flipping around, it's flipping out, that there would be some relating evidence. And there is some relating evidence. And I'm going to show it to you right here. Let's open up a new window. I'm hoping that my new installed driver makes my system not break down, not crash. Been having that problem.
You know, there was somebody the other day that sent me a link to every computer in their house, Macs and PCs, laptops and desktops, all got like zapped at the same time. I said, well, what were you looking up? And she goes, well, I was looking up something on Zachariah Sitchin being connected with the Rockefellers. And I said, that's interesting. But anyway, I mean, I don't know if it was just human error or what happened, but it was very odd to see that all those computers went out at the same time. So I hear you.
Okay, let's check this out. Let's make the connection here. Martian mystery cloud defies explanation. This is the type of information right here, the mystery part, when the scientists can't explain it. The reason they can't explain it is because of the position of where this dust storm started. It started on the nighttime side of Mars, and the leading hypothesis, the explanation is that these dust storms are caused by the solar wind. But this is on the nighttime side. How did it start? Whenever you go down and look at the date, the plume first appeared, look at it, March 12th, 2012. Exactly the same time that Earth magnetosphere flipped around. The same time that this is going on. Because we have a source of subatomic particles coming out of the Leo constellation. This is some of the most convincing scientific evidence that we have an intruder. This thing must be very near. Remember, the Earth is only 1 astronomical unit from the sun. It's that close. The pressure shock, the reach of our solar system is beyond 100 astronomical units. In order for example, planet 9, that's far out, to cause a phenomenon like this, it would have to radiate solar-like emissions that fight the solar wind at 50 AU, if that's where they say it is, 40 AU, 30 AU, those subatomic particle waves would have to fight the solar wind all the way to 1 astronomical unit, where the solar wind is extremely powerful. And
Let me ask a quick question.
This event took place for 28 hours, telling us the subatomic particle source is close, and it was powerful enough to even start dust storms on the nighttime side of Mars. Go ahead.
You might have just answered my question. I was going to ask if the magnetosphere was still, if it was still swapped, essentially, if it was still shifted. Because in 2013, and I've talked a little bit about this to you before, and I bring this up sometimes on the shows, I picked up a high-quality radiation detector watch. And it's military grade, it's very accurate, and I've noticed that the levels have gone up in at least San Antonio. When I pick up the watch, it would hover around 0.07 microsieverts per hour at a consistent level. I mean, it was pretty much always at that point. And since then, like I'm looking at the levels right now on my watch, and it's at 0.10. Yesterday, it was at 0.12. And even though those levels aren't very high, that's almost double what it was just a few years ago. And if there's a connection to the magnetosphere here with the Earth, and if this dark star or this black star is causing the magnetosphere, the atmosphere, essentially our protective atmosphere, to shift or to move, that might allow more radiation to come in from other stars and suns, etc. And I'm wondering if that could also explain why when the sun is on your skin, it feels so much more intense even when the temperature is the same. So my question is the magnetosphere still swapped? Is it still shifted, or did it go back to normal after that 28 hours?
I think you're talking about the magnetopause collapse of October the 13th. And that was explained, if you look at I made 2 Black Star News reports on that. It's preferable that you watch the first one first. There's more information there, and then the addendums from the historical record. This has happened before. It's happened several times before. So we found plenty of evidence in the historical record explaining what happened. And what happened was the moon was a key player in what happened. It entered Earth magnetosphere at the same time that the level 2 geomagnetic storm struck. So we had high-speed flows coming from the sun, from the coronal hole that turned around, and then the moon broke through the side of the magnetopause of Earth magnetosphere. And as it did, then it created eddies. These high-speed particles coming around the moon, and the moon is energized momentarily from the subatomic particle flows. It has very weak type magnetosphere, extremely, but enough to cause these eddies as these high-speed subatomic particles rush around it. What you have is like a rock in a stream, and it creates these eddies around the side. It takes about 6 days for the moon to move through the magnetosphere, and it started right on the 13th, right whenever the moon entered the magnetosphere. The full moon was on the 16th, so we back up 3 days, and we know that happened on the 13th. Geomagnetic storm hit along the same time. So we had those fluctuations in the Earth magnetosphere so long. It was reverse flows coming back through. It was not a true reversal. It was could be characterized as a magnetopause collapse, but the bow shock did not turn around because of this type of activity. It's because of the subatomic particle flows that maneuvered around the moon. And like I said, we go back to even 1963 and 62, 63. There's a lot of evidence. And I shared in that second update report, I read to you right from the report that they gave on the day that the change took place, because they were not only measuring, looking at the magnetosphere, they were also using weather balloons and measuring radioactivity, kind of like what you're talking about. And they noticed those fluctuations happening on a particular day. Like this year was October the 13th, 2016. And we went back in time and checked the dates that showed up in the report, and each time moon was entering Earth magnetosphere in the same exact position. It's just the researchers didn't connect the dots between the moon and this phenomenon. that were going on. So it was a mystery to them then, but that's definitely been solved now. Project Black Star Research has enough baseline data to be able to take something like this and solve it. So that's not what caused it. Your detector is going to be detecting many different sources of subatomic of your radiation. Some of it is likely has to do with Fukushima. Some of it's going to have to do with the electronics that you're around, because we're glowing with this type of activity with our electronics and what we're coming to our cell phones, our computers, through all that, and it makes a little cloud that your device is likely going to pick up. We also have fluctuations in Earth magnetosphere, so you're measuring the fluctuations. The sun is going to sleep because the black star is siphoning off the energy, the electromagnetic energy across the spectrum, redirecting it to the other planets through a secondary set of magnetic portal connections. Earth magnetosphere is weakening proportionately because it is powered by the sun. My views are different than the typical geologist, and our Earth is connected to the sun through that magnetic portal connection. The more energy that the sun puts out, the more energy we receive to power our magnetosphere. So it's a balancing act that's going on all the time. So when the sun is weakened now, they say it's going into a moderate minimum, a grand minimum. They have all types of excuses, but that's not the truth. The truth is the black star is siphoning off the energy. So the sun appears to have the X-ray flux, the radio flux waves, 1/3 where they should be. But at the same time, the sun is not as powerful. The solar output is not as powerful, and the Earth magnetosphere is not as powerful. So it's a proportionate thing with what you have here. So if the sun totally went out, and because that's what prophecy says, the sun is going to turn dark as sackcloth. The sun totally goes out and does not have the solar emissions, then the magnetosphere collapses. Then the Earth doesn't need the Earth. It doesn't need the magnetosphere because we do not have the solar output. But whenever the sun turns back on, magnetic portal connection re-energizes, it powers up Earth magnetosphere, and then we have the protection. You see what I mean? So what you're measuring, there's going to be a lot of variables involved. I can't see no way in your environment that you can measure one thing using that detector. It's going to be detecting the solar rays that are coming in, fluctuating magnetosphere, and likely Fukushima. We're down.
Wanted to take a quick time out to keep you guys updated on the road trip we've got coming up here. It's going to be hopefully a countrywide spanning tour, and I've personally purchased out of my own pocket a solar generator setup. I've obviously got my studio for the audio and the video, and it's going to get expensive doing these shows on the road. So we're looking for sponsors, and if you want to be a contributor, that's fantastic. If you have a business or a service, would love to promote your product. If it's a quality product or service, please send us an email at guestbookings@leakproject.com. And we've got so much on the horizon, you guys. I can't wait. This is going to be super exciting. We're going to do interviews with people on location. We're going to go to places like Dugway, Utah, Area 51, different haunted spots, paranormal locations, Skinwalker Ranch, hopefully Mount Hood. Any places you guys have ideas on that I haven't brought up already, send me an email. If you know of a place in Tennessee, Kentucky, Colorado, we'll definitely get some footage of the murals and stuff out there in the airport if you guys feel that's important, although there's plenty of that out there already, so I don't really think that that'll be a prime destination to go to. But we want to find locations that have little information, or the information that is available. For example, Dulce, New Mexico. I was out there last year. I actually had an opportunity to make it to the very top of the Archuleta Mesa, but I only made it about 3/4 of the way up because I didn't have a spare tire that was adequate, and the roads were really rough. And you got to know people that live there to get access to certain areas. So I'm willing to spend a day, a week, or longer to get a good story on scene. And sometimes you have to go out to those locations and spend a few days out there. You can't just pick it up in a few minutes or a few hours. So we need some drones. We need some night vision equipment. And we need funds to actually get out on scene. Now, I've got a mobile studio set up to where I don't necessarily need funds for lodging, but that would definitely help. So everything else I picked up out of my own pocket, and I appreciate everybody that's contributed to Leak Project. There's been a couple people in particular that have helped out a lot, so I appreciate that greatly. And I can't wait to show you guys what we've got coming up. So check out leakproject.com. We have a donate section there if you want to. But also, if you're going to donate, I would recommend you just become a contributing member at Leak Project, because that'll give you access to virtually all the podcasts, ad-free, and they're downloadable, they're streamable. You'll get access to exclusive content because we have an exclusive section on there. We also have some pretty cool high-resolution vinyl decals. They're only $10. And we want to get this thing rocking, you guys. This is just the start. Enjoy the rest of the presentation, and we'll talk to you soon.
Fukushima, we're downwind of Fukushima. And if you do a little research on that, you'll see that it's going to accumulate in the creek beds, and it's going to come down with the rain. And then there are going to be accumulation areas, but not to scare anybody or anything. The amphibians, the reptiles, in their reproduction, the eggs, and their offspring, they're going to be showing us the signs long before it's going to affect mammals. And it's going to show up in the children, the embryos of our children, long before it's going to show up in people like you and me. So I'm not saying that there's a need to worry about Fukushima or the radiation going up or anything like that. If you're sensitive to the sun, then you could be more susceptible to skin cancers and things like that. So you're going to want to make sure that you cover up, for things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's
kind
of my view.
Fascinating. Well, and it's interesting because, like you said, this watch picks up a whole bunch of different forms of radiation. So it could be some type of nuclear isotopes. I know that Carlsbad, New Mexico has a bunch of radioactive waste out there, and there's been some leaks that I've read about. So it could be a number of things. Now, one thing that I do find interesting is when I was in Big Bend, Texas, the national park out there, love it. And I've been there twice. The radiation levels literally triple inside of the park. So I don't know, maybe that could just be radon or something like that, some type of natural element. I have no idea.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, so you're getting you're checking the environment for sources, and that's probably going to fluctuate. It's probably going to go up and down. You get closer to your machines, you get close to these other sources, you go outside, you get closer to where there's accumulation from Fukushima, then it's going to vary. But as far as being a gauge of solar output and magnetosphere, maybe there's a percentage of that in there, but I think your environment is too filled with the radiation to be a good gauge of what's going on out in space.
It's like one of those insurance policies. I guess I got so tired of hearing about it on the internet about how we're all going to die from Fukushima. So I finally went out and picked up the watch just to see what the levels were. And yeah, it's fascinating. I'll tell you this too. If you fly, wow, the radiation levels in the air are they were up to 4.2 microsieverts. On the ground, it was at 0.07. So that's an increase of about 60 times in the air. And once again, that could be all solar radiation. It could be a combination of things. There's a product called zeolite in powder form that was given to many of the victims of Chernobyl that were exposed to mass amounts of radiation. And from the research that I've done, that helped tremendously. So there are certain things that people can do. Hey, maybe it'll make some people X-Men. Who knows? Laser beams will come out of their eyeballs.
Yeah, as you go higher in the atmosphere, you have less atmosphere to protect you. Because we're protected by magnetosphere, but also by atmosphere. Mm-hmm. And that's the reason that my recommendation is the Ozarks over like the Rocky Mountains. Rocky Mountains are too high. Whenever Earth magnetosphere does want to collapse, it's going to be weakened. Upper layers of the atmosphere is going to want to be stripped away, even if it's temporarily, and you're going to want as much atmosphere above your head as possible. So that's why the Ozarks, being our cavern locations, 1,200 feet above sea level. So we have much more air above our head than people in Denver, for example. So that's a threat that can come and haunt you later in the timeline whenever we're going through these earth changes from near black star proximity. Yeah,
and also Colorado is a very interesting, unique place nowadays. It's almost like the new California in some locations. It's unfortunate. There's some great areas out there, but politically speaking, with the Denver airport, and who knows what's underneath that Denver airport. But I do think that there's some very powerful, influential people that know strategic locations. And I think that also, wasn't there a Navy map that was released, top secret Navy map that came out, was leaked, that showed the area in the Ozarks and up in that specific, like up in Missouri and stuff, as very safe locations after giant cataclysms because of the water levels in certain areas, etc.
Yeah, my safe zone map is an overlay of the Navy map.
That's probably, and also Edgar Cayce had a similar map that he came up with when he was in one of his trance states as well, I think.
I think you're talking about the Scallion map. That's going to be right here. So if you look at them both, you're going to see they're very similar. This is my safe zone map. This identifies safe zone areas. This out here is not safe. Look at the big hole that is coming. And think Yellowstone. Think of regional calderas that are bulging right now. And when these magma waves join together, massive crustal displacement, massive crustal displacement. This is still here because of North American Craton. I was spending time over here on the Appalachian side early on in 2011 and realized there's far too many nuclear power plants over here. This is the safe zone over here, and this is going to be a giant inland gulf later in the timeline. This is going to liquefy, so the liquefaction is going to take over here once this pops in this region, then this area is connected to the New Madrid seismic zone. And lava tube formations that cross through here. And whenever this kicks off, then this is going to be gigantic earthquakes. Once this does, this pressure that's coming from this way is going to come through here. We've seen the 3 magnitude earthquakes and above increase since 2013. That's connected to the February 6, 2013 Solomon Island quake on the other side of the planet. That's whenever this started. That was another tectonic reset that I told you about. So what you have, this North American craton like this, and then you have these plates pushed against it, and these plates are cascading away, slow motion right now, and that is what's created this new line of earthquakes. Get America over here. This was a California quake swarm area right here when this investigation started, right here. It was localized. Now, we have a new line of earthquakes from right where you see this 3.0 running straight out through Seattle, pointing at Cascadia. This is because of the slippage. This is because of the tectonic plates gradually shifting in this direction right here, away from the North American craton. And the North American craton is 250 kilometers deep. This crust out here, California, is only 60 kilometers deep. So when we get those rising magma plumes, when you have this kind of activity happening under here, then these rising magma plumes break through the buoyancy barriers, and it's 2012 movie type stuff. Massive, massive crustal displacement. And then that's going to lead you to this scenario right here. So imagine where the pyroclastic flows are going to go, because the prevailing winds are going this way. They're going to go this way. So that's why you have difficulty finding a safe zone location up here. Then you have 200 nuclear power plants where I've got this circle over here. You're going to eventually have to come out of the cave. You're going to be downwind. That's why this is the safe zone. And the Ozarks particularly, we're far enough south to avoid these flows, and we're inside, and we have aquifer-fed springs inside the caverns. So that water comes from deep inside the earth. We're not depending on creeks and rivers and anything like that. Plus there's a lot of survivalists already working here. There's a lot of them. They are there because of the economic collapse, the collapsing the dollar, the down power grids, Mad Max. They have 10,000 reasons to be survivalists in the Ozarks. So we were able to network with them, making our survival group that much stronger here in the Ozarks, and currently working with groups in Missouri and in Arkansas. You're going to want a lot of men on the ground, a lot of boots to defend your position once the Black Star leaves, and you have to deal with Mad Max, you're going to deal with the elite, you're going to have to deal with other threats that are coming later down the timeline. So the idea you're going to dig a hole in your backyard and survive, or you're going to have to eventually come out, and then what are you going to do without a big survival group, to watch your back? And so that's part of the survival strategy. This is the map that you're talking about. This is the Scallion map of the world. Right here, opens big enough. No, that's not really big. We could get a better one, but this is the way Scallion sees it. You see the super volcano up in Germany, it popped, according to his predictions, and you have the same scenario that the Navy map shows over here in the United States going on. And it's speculation. There's some speculation here about whether Scallion's going to be right, the Navy map's going to be right, but my view is that the geology, the seismic pattern, the volcanism, this magma plume formation, focusing on this this area out west, looks extremely likely of what's going on out west there. So you want to be on the stable North American craton. That's the center of the country. So some of it would appear to be speculation, but the idea, whenever you're devising a survival strategy to protect yourself against an extinction level event, that's what we're talking about here. Then you prepare for the worst case scenario, and then you hope for the best. And the worst case scenario includes a cavern formation to mimic what the elite are doing underground, and large survival group representing a cross-section of your society with doctors, caregivers, military contingent, builders, all the way down the line. Because after the Black Star leaves, every broken link in the societal chain is going to create threats. Later in the timeline, you have to protect your children. That's very, very important. And if you protect your children, everybody else will be safe. But whenever your children start dying, morale goes away. There's infighting, and everybody dies. Basically what happens. So in order to devise a contingency to safeguard everyone, then you really have to have a large survival group. And to mimic the elite, you have to be underground. And so it's pretty obvious choice that the Ozarks, like John Moore, like Navy intelligence, a lot of other people would tell you the exact same thing that I just told you, because they have threat assessment analysts just like me doing their threat assessment and understanding the geology and celestial environment. And they're focusing in the same place that we are, which is a good thing. We want to be in that area. There are nuclear power plants there, but they're going to be closed down. The elite are going to use them for their power source later in the timeline. So we know there are elite bunker positions in the Ozarks, but we're just going to kind of ride along their coattails and have a superior enough force so that we're going to be bargaining, we're going to be negotiating rather than just being overrun our position. So that's where our survival, if you want to talk about survival and survival maps, that's kind of where we're sitting in the investigation. The protocols for this Ozarks project were written back in 2011. We're following them right now, keeping people separate, building a group right now, very, very strong. And this, if you're living in the United States particularly, this is going to be your best chance to work together with like-minded people. As I hear so many times that everybody in my family thinks I'm crazy, and people don't have a connection with other like-minded people to be able to even talk about these things with. So for me, for my members, then $25 per year, that's what we're talking about. When you go to Terral03.com, you hit the subscribe button. $25 per year, then you can send me, you'll get a Gmail email address, and then you'll write me at that address and request a threat assessment report. You'll get it, and then you will have the option to give me permission to share your contact information with the survival group, and then you make the connections, and then everybody works together. And the logistics stuff, then I leave it pretty much up to the group. If I dictate and point, then everybody will do the same thing, but that's not what we want. So I just have to say I'm really proud of the, especially the local members of the Ozarks group. We have kind of a welcome wagon now of people that live there that are welcoming new people to come in. So I'm real proud of them, and I'm expecting this group to double in size here the next month, and then double in size again by the next month. And your viewers are welcome to participate. Go ahead.
Well, this is absolutely incredible. And one of the things that I was going to ask you about as far as the upcoming events that could be taking place, what are some time frames? Because you talked about this 188-day cycle. So, I mean, obviously we're going to keep that on the forefront of our minds. But when do you see the next cataclysm essentially happening, or big event? And do you think it might be intertwined here with the elections? I mean, because it's getting pretty gnarly out there right now. It's certainly a dogfight. But I do see a lot of cyclical stuff with the politics and elections. It seems like every 4 years there's like a game plan that they use, and they just kind of change it up a little bit, but the game plan essentially stays the same. So do you think that some of these times are lined up with that, and that could be a catalyst to possible martial law or civil war? Because it seems like they want civil war, or at least they want us to think they do. And when I say they, I'm referring to the media.
Well, those are the ones carrying water for the House of Rothschild, the Council on Foreign Relations. It doesn't matter who wins the election. They're all on the same team. Russia, Putin, Obama, Rothschild, they're all on the same team. They're going to the underground arc cities. The New World Order begins once the Black Star leaves. Georgia Guidestone's agenda is going to come because the Black Star is going to make it come. They all know that. So this grandstanding you see by Putin, this is a big show. This is going to lead to a peace treaty. That's not what he wants. He doesn't want to create threats at the same time. He's threatened by the Black Star. That's against all military protocol. If you cannot establish the threat, you cannot create new ones. It's going to put the brakes on your op. So it doesn't matter who wins, Hillary or Trump. It doesn't matter who wins. The person that leads this country in the United States, which is Canamera, Mexico, by the way, is in Denver. And he is the director over the Council on Foreign Relations, working beside the Trilateral Commission and the Bilderbergs, the Bilderberg Group. They have their working groups, the CFR working groups. That's who is assisted by the A-Team CIA. That's why they moved there in 2005. CFR has been there since 1938, running this op that is taking place right now. So you already live in Canamera, Mexico. The puppet government is in Washington, D.C. You're being mesmerized by their theater to keep you occupied because they don't want you to wake up about what's coming from space. But it really doesn't matter who's going to win. So whether it's going to align or not, it's going to be, we're going to have the election on the 8th. The event that you're asking about is scheduled right now, and this is similar to the two 7.6s we had last year. Those were predicted November the 24th. This year's for November the 28th, and that has to do with the Earth moving through the helium focusing cone, which I think has made my backside alignment events late. See, this is only 4 days later than last year, because it looks like, going over the past year's data, that this helium focusing cone has been a contributing factor that made them happen late. That's whenever the solar system harmonics situation, the amplification, the amplitude, the resonation, all synced for the release of the energy. So rather than looking at this gravitationally, according to my earlier modeling, now we're looking at it more like a physicist. And with the help of Jason and David and a few other, the physicists, the geophysicist fellow that's been helping us, then we're understanding more about why these things have been happening in the past. The 188-day cycle actually ended on November 25th, 2015. See, that happened on April 25th. The next year, this recent event happened, Vanuatu 7.0, on the 28th, only 3 days later. We've had a 12-day progression for the last decade until this recent year, but this could be a false reading too. That's what we're going to find out here. So not only are we tracking the earthquakes, we're tracking the volcanism, new volcanic eruptions, where they are, and that has to do a lot with where the earthquakes are taking place. We're also tracking the magnetic North Pole migration. And this is for the last 4 years, and we've identified patterns in this. So we're trailing, if you look at 11.1 right here, it's 3 days ago, where 11.1 was last year, where 11.1 was the year before. And we're looking at the number of days in the differential. Now, if on the 188-day cycle, I should have a 12-day differential here. And if I continue to have this 12-day differential, then that tells me that I had a false reading on April the 28th of last year. It could be, this is a minor model, it's only a 10% likelihood of being accurate. But the minor model says that the old modeling is correct. It says that my event should have happened on May the 7th, 2016, rather than April 28th, that it has to do with this solar system harmonic thing. And that the black star is actually farther left in the orbit diagram than I think. We're going to know more when the Earth is going to testify. Coming behind the sun, it's testifying through this magnetic pole migration. Because here's the thing, I should have a 3-day differential here if my seismic data is right, and I have a 12-day. This is 9, 10. It's in the neighborhood of 12 days. That's telling me the black star is continuing to move 12 degrees left in the orbit diagram. This is not caused by shifting Earth metals, according to the old geological modeling. That is going to break down. This is caused because of the influence of another magnet in our solar system that is very powerful, that is arm wrestling with our sun for magnetic polarity control of our planet. So our planet now is bipolar. And this migration pattern is because of the movement of another magnet in our solar system, and it appears to be moving left 12 degrees based upon this data that I'm looking at right here. So since I had a 3-day differential moving down here, I had if you see 7.5 here, 7.5 here, you have a 3-degree differential. It was following my 3-day differential in the seismic chart. But then as we moved on around, I'm moving back to my 12-day as I'm coming behind the sun. So whenever we get to the top of this chart, we're going to be within a week of the backside alignment. We already know that's going to happen. The prediction date doesn't show on this chart. On the old chart, it showed up. For December the 1st, reaching the top of this chart, hit it exactly on the day, predicted it 6 months in advance by doing that. So there's a pattern with the magnet, this channel wobble that we're looking at here. There's a pattern in this movement that's pointing towards the black star being over here in the Libra constellation. The same as doing the same thing as the seismic pattern. It's saying, this is on the wrong date. It's kind of throwing me off a little bit. Go back to the actual date. And we're passing behind the sun relative to. So the black star is over here in Libra. The Earth is getting ready to pass, it's getting ready to go through this helium focusing cone. And the black star is right over here. In our event, I can show you today. Maybe we can enlarge it for your viewers a little bit. We can show you today, we're going to move by, and whenever we come, high CP usage. When the moon comes around in orbit right around to here, and we're already in this cone, Ophiuchus is right here, the cone formation is right here, Earth is going to come into it, similarly to the way the moon came into Earth magnetosphere. It's going to penetrate this barrier. And when it does, it's going to read the 27th, 26th, 27th. I believe it's going to take place right here on the 28th. The moon is going to be a contributor. That's what I'm thinking right now. So the event that you're going to be looking for is going to take place according to current modeling on November the 28th. That's what the data is saying right now. It's not going to be a global event. It's going to be similar to the pair of 7.6 Peru quakes, 5 minutes apart, more than 605 kilometers deep. And I'm looking for that backside alignment event. If you want to look, if we're going to look at the pattern, let's come back over here. I might have to, if we're getting bad presentation because of too much CPU, then maybe I need to.
Well, it's doing good so far.
Okay, yeah, I just got a little warning there. Last year, see this activity is kicking off right here as I'm talking?
Mm-hmm.
This is where the backside alignment quake event happened last cycle. It happened in Peru. That guy didn't want to go away, it just happened. It's about right here where my cursor is. 2 7.6s that were at depths like this, way down. Big, gigantic 7.6 circles way off the chart right here, happened at the backside alignment last year. So that's the type of event we're talking about. This will not be something global. And if history is going to repeat itself, if the modeling is going to be accurate, then it's going to move slightly north of its position. We were in Chile previous, then Peru, could be in Bolivia, could be anywhere in this area between Mexico and where we had our previous event. That's what it looks like to me. It's going to be up to here. So it could happen in Peru again. It could be down here in Chile again. Just we're still, what is this, 24 days from my event. So difficult to say if this is precursor event that much early. Usually it's going to be a week to 2 weeks that you're going to see a tall stack of flags, very similar to what we saw here with the Italy quake. It was pretty easy to call because this stack of flags was way higher. It was way, way higher. So for 1 week. So whenever you see lots of 4s and 5s, one place, those are precursor quakes. Same thing happened before Fukushima. Same thing happened before Chile in 2010. Same thing happened for Guerrero even in March the 20th, 2012. So that was pretty easy to predict. And again, it's that deep one there that's going to change the environment, the subterranean environment down the transition zone for this area. So that's the 28th. You're going to see lots of 7 magnitude earthquakes coming up between the 14th and the 28th. That's going to happen. So the events that are taking place right now, it's going to be more than we've seen because we just went through a mini lull, but you're going to see a lot more of this activity, and it's going to peak in November the 28th. And then if the Earth is far enough below the plane, remember Earth bobs up and down on the plane as it's going naturally around the sun. If we're far enough below the plane, then we're going to have solar flare activity. I can show you where that's going to happen. One of the reasons that the scientists are warning about this this kill shot is because of, let me get this back on today's date, is because of how Earth is a participant in the creating of these flares. We talked about those magnetic portal connections. So let's put the black star back over here. You know, just for graphics, we can call Saturn the black star, just, you know, just so I can illustrate this. When Earth is over here in outside orbit position, well, first of all, we had the alignment, then we move the magnetic portal connection to stretching. It gets to that 90-degree point, and then Earth orbits through the headlights. The black star's coming this way. We were in the headlights creating that uptick that we went through. Now, here's the deal. There's a magnetic portal connection that's running from the Earth to the black star. We're just using Saturn as an example. As we're coming through around the sun like this, that magnetic portal connection is being pulled through the sun. Black star is a little bit below the plane, and if Earth's a little bit below the plane, then we have an opportunity for these magnetic portal connections. Remember, you have 3, one from the sun to the Earth, one from the black star to the Earth, and one from the Earth to the black star. We pull that black star Earth connection through these other 2 connections, the star to star connection on this side, the sun Earth connection. And what happens is, as this angle goes from 90 degrees down to 0, you have magnetic portal connection convergence here and here at the black star location and the Earth at the Earth location. And what you get is a series. The sun feels this electromagnetism. It has a defense mechanism, protection against electromagnetic pulses, against meteors, asteroids, comets. We have images of solar flares actually redirecting comets and asteroids because the sun can sense them. It's a defense mechanism. Well, as this magnetic portal connection is coming in, what happens is the sun senses the electromagnetic energy. As this convergence happens, this is the same force that turned Earth's magnetosphere around when it was around on the other side of the sun. You saw the force that was generated. The reason that it's generated is because of portal-to-portal cross-firing, sprite formation, highly charged, this gigantic lightning bolts. The sides of this magnetic portal connections actually burst momentarily. It sends subatomic particles in between the connections. And as they converge, it gives those waves directionality. So it's pushing them towards the sun on this side and towards the sun on this side. So on this eastern limb over here is where we have seen, as the Earth is approaching, getting ready to pass through, it pulls that magnetic portal connection behind, and off this eastern limb, then you have these, and what we had for 2 years in a row was like 3 days of consecutive X-class flares, shooting off of the sun over here and shooting off of the sun over here. Then the portals cross, and as we come by after the alignment, then you have magnetic portal connection divergence. The magnetic portal connection passes on through, but this one from the black star to the Earth is still close enough to these other 2 for the sprite formation. So as they're pulling away from one another, separating, you get the largest solar flare of the year. That happens right here, and this is where Earth is in a danger place, because as you're coming up to the alignment, these flares shoot off behind us. Earth is heading this way, they're shooting off behind us. Very predictable pattern. No kill shot scenario. After we come by, this is when we have the problem for the kill shot, because these magnetic portal connections are separating, and you get a western limb shot. Earth is moving this way, here comes the solar flare. If it just happens to come off the equator of the sun, if it comes off the top, it's going to shoot up. If it comes more than 30 degrees below, it's going to shoot down under us. When it's equatorial, that's the killer shot. It'll come right across, that wave will come right across the plane, and Earth will move right into it. So if there's a chance for a kill shot, that's going to come right around December 1st or 2nd afterwards. But this phenomenon happens on some cycles, and sometimes there are no flares at all. It has to do with Earth, the way it's moving above and below the ecliptic plane. When it's below, they happen. When it's above, they're not. And by looking at just, I should go and look at a better chart, but it looks like Earth's going to be above. It's the chances are that we're not going to see the activity, but as the black star gets closer and closer to the inner solar system, it's also getting near the plane, so that's going to change the dynamic. So those are things that you're going to look for at the backside alignment. Keep watching the reports, and November the 28th is going to be the focal point. That's going to end this Earth change uptake period, and the reason is because after we come into alignment, then the black star is heading this way. The Earth is shooting away at 66,000 miles per hour, and the magnetic portal connection is getting longer after that. So we have a lull period, a 3-month lull period coming after this uptick, and that's going to peak on November the 28th. Go ahead.
Well, I'm certainly glad you're bringing this out today with us here. One of the things that I've had several people ask me is, when do you see the next cataclysm? So it sounds like around November 28th, and it looks like it's going to be on the other side of the world, or possibly even it looked like you were showing some locations in Europe. So one of the things that maybe we could talk about before we close out tonight, and first of all, Terral, I got to say thank you a lot. I really appreciate you coming on the show with us.
Sure. Whenever you want me, you just like today, you just let me know and I'll come and share with you.
Wonderful. That I'll definitely take you up on that. I would recommend our audience go to Terral03.com. If you're looking for somewhat of a supplemental survival insurance opportunities, I guess, is a way to kind of reference it. You've got some good information on earthquakes, volcanoes, cataclysms. The charts that you bring are a lot more. The way you bring some of this stuff to the table makes it very easy to understand. And without these graphs and charts and the way that you present it, I think that for many people it would be a lot more difficult, including myself, to understand, because I don't have a lot of research in this field. So it's almost like you can give somebody enough information in just an hour presentation like you've done thus far, so we can be like, wow, okay, that makes sense. I understand. So if somebody does decide to become a contributing member with your services and get access to these reports, it'll be easier for them to understand and then give them some good reference points. So this has been great. I really appreciate it. And is there anything you'd like to share with us before we close out tonight?
Okay, just a couple of things. Jason, project physicist, really smart guy. And generally, this is going to sound a little strange, but I'm used to being the smartest guy in the room since I was a kid. This guy here is smart. This guy's real smart. And he is sending me these reports and helping me to understand more about the quantum and how I have a problem with relativity reconciling the quantum. My view, the universe is broken, is the reason they don't reconcile. He's breaking through some of my barriers, definitely. But what he's going to do in a series of these newsletters is show you what's going on celestially out in space with these subatomic particle flows, and how the sun is connected to us, and how it's causing these low pressure areas and things like that. It's extremely interesting. If you're science oriented and you're interested, this type of information, you cannot get this anywhere. You cannot get this anywhere. When we're trying to calm him down a little bit, I know I need that too, and get him to use terms that people can pass back and forth. And that's the problem with including physicists in this type of op, because they talk to each other so much that they alienate everyone. And that's I appreciate the compliment about trying to make things simple. I'm from a average family, carpenters, bricklayers and stuff, a bricklayer myself actually, but having to explain things to them makes it easier. So when I'm learning it, then I'm at the time trying to learn simpler ways to explain it. Then also, you can get everything for free. There's a way. I mean, there's people out there without resources. I know. I've been that way for forever. And if you will go to my YouTube channel, before you sign me off here, let me just get over to YouTube channel. I'll sign myself in. And my channel, there's the address on it. It's Terral Blackstar. If you go here and make sure you hit the subscriber button, then here's an update, for example, and we'll just click on it. Then go into the description. Oh, let me turn myself off. Then we hit the show more button and come down in here. You see that link right there? There's a link to the newsletter.
Okay.
The ones that come out every week or in every Thursday update report. You can get all the newsletters for free. It's whenever you want my services. You want me to be your threat assessment analyst. You want to email me. You want to join survival group. When you want more, that's whenever you become a subscriber, and then that's only $25. That's only $25 per year. So that's kind of the program, and I appreciate you letting me share. But I did want to let people know that because some people think I'm like fear-mongering and try to get money out of people and things like that. But even if you go to my website, then Let's go back there just for a second.
You mean I got to pay $2.15
Yeah.
a month to get access to this?
Yeah, my book, 9/11 book. It's a big, gigantic book. If you can't make it to it, just read chapter 11. It's a 100-point timeline, but you can get that for free. And my book, The Mystery Explained, written in 2005, 80 diagrams, show you God's wisdom, hidden right there in plain sight. You can get that free too. So every single thing that is for free, you'll never see an ad in my YouTubes. You'll never see an ad. That's not what this is about. It's about helping people, sharing information, and first waking them up, and then giving them a path so that they can have a survival strategy involved. So that's really what the program's about. And whenever you want me to come and share with you, you're going to want me to come probably just after, probably the first weekend in December. After or even during, we're getting ready to go through a lot of seismic rocking and rolling. You're going to see that it's happening. It's going to happen the way that I said. And then you're going to go, wow, we need to have this guy back and let him share a little bit more.
Oh, that'll be great. Certainly looking forward to it. Thank you, Terral. Much appreciated. And also, folks, check out Terral03.com. Once again, go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/clandestine time lord. Become a member, get access to all the latest podcasts, absolutely free. Also, if you want to become a contributing member at leakproject.com, you get access to exclusive content, downloadable, streamable, ad-free as well. Be safe, everybody, and be the change you want to see. This is Rex Bear. Talk to you soon. Latest: Planet X, Nibiru, Wormwood, Nemesis, Darkstar, Blackstar, next big event, NASA Insider, astronomers confirm, Planet 9, earthquakes, volcanoes, pole shifts, geomagnetic collapse, radiation exposure, nuclear winter, underground bunkers, orbit charts, seismic calculations, cataclysm, tsunamis, leaked classified Navy map, Edgar Casey survival insurance alternatives, Terral03, Leak Project. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this edition of Leak Project. I'm your host, Rex Bear, and we have Terral from Terral03 Blackstar with us again. Last time we had him on the show, it was a huge success. There's been a lot of requests to get him back on with the information he has in connection to earthquakes, earth changes, the Darkstar. Now, it's interesting because recently my producer reached out to somebody from NASA that says they think they discovered a new planet. And this gentleman said he didn't have time to come on our show, but he would be more than happy to let us use some excerpts that he's got of a possibility that there's this planet on the outskirts of our solar system that's actually causing some pretty serious planetary changes here in our solar system. And for those that have been listening to Leak Project now for either a week, a month, or a year, you guys know that I'm definitely neutral on Nibiru. I'm very agnostic towards that. But the more research I do about a Planet X, a 10th planet, there's definitely a 10th planet out there, folks. I mean, there's thousands of them, according to NASA now, that are outside of the asteroid belt. So essentially, there's a Planet X somewhere, and some of these Earth changes that we're seeing now could definitely be caused by some enormous planetary bodies that we can't physically see right now because of their size and the gravitation and everything else. So we're going to dive deep in that today. Terral, I really appreciate you spending time with us here at the Leak Project. How the heck are you?
I'm a little bit under the weather, as I was mentioning earlier, the walking pneumonia, but I'm functional and can definitely, probably helps a little bit because my tendency is to speak too quickly, and I get criticized for that. So I'm definitely, you're getting a slower version of me today. But as far as that extra planet, I wonder with the background constellation of that and how they're going to attribute it to the changes that we're going to talk about right here, because the object that we're tracking is close. Mm-hmm. It is inside of Jupiter orbit. It's been moving left in the orbit diagram rapidly, 12-degree average for the last decade. And if this thing was on the outer skirts, it cannot possibly move that rapidly. It's impossible. So I'm looking forward to sharing with you. I appreciate you giving me the offer to return and share more information.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get into the information you have. You were showing me some charts before we started the show here, some earthquake status information, and I think that'd be great to get out to our audience. So I'll go ahead and give you the floor.
Okay. Yeah. I apologize. I'm going to have to clear my throat every now and then. This
no problem.
Okay. First of all, you can get more information, background information on, because we're going to get in some kind of deep topics, magnetic pole connections and things, magnetic pulse reversal. So you can always get more information by going to my website right here. This is how you subscribe and support the research. If you want to join a survival group, for example, there are lots of people are getting together. I've never seen it like this before. We have more than 50 group leaders now and over 100 families in our survival group program. And the first thing you do is you click this button. If you do not want to use PayPal, then you can click on this Contact Terral button right here, and I'll send you a snail mail address. So that's where we would start. And then, because I can begin by showing you the most recent newsletter. If I can get that baby to pop up here. And I guess we can give you a full screen. Then So we're down here towards the bottom. Let's get back up here to the top. This is kind of what you're looking at. These come out every week on Thursdays to get people ready for the weekend. We do the research all week, and then typically people are really busy and they cannot keep up with everything. We've got all the earthquake information. This is a seismic chart that we're using. This is the week over week information. Right now we're in week 38 of the orbit cycle, and what we're doing is charting this information and then graphing it and noticing the patterns that's going on. And what the patterns reveal, these red values are, this is where we deviate the weekly values for each of these categories when they deviate from what's in the historical record. So this shouldn't happen. We shouldn't have 2 sub-20 values in the 5s. And just recently we had 3 sub-20 values for the 5 magnitude earthquakes. And these sub-200 values, very disturbing. When this happens, this is extremely rare that something like that, when you go back and look, the further back you go, you're not going to see any red letters because everything was happening kind of normally. The more of these red letters show up is it's an indication the black star is getting closer and closer. So we're going to keep up with the seismic patterns in the weekly publications, and then we're going to show you, we're going to point out the hotspots, things that are happening, and it's the patterns that are tipping us off as to black star position. And right now it's between the sun and if you want a little graphic on that, I can show you where the black star is. And this is going to be the Planet 9 story, I think is what you're covering. Let's get this.
I find it fascinating that the astronomer Brown, the same gentleman that basically downgraded Pluto, is now boasting on the media about Planet 9. It's like they intentionally downgraded Pluto several years ago so that when they did decide, which is now essentially to say, yeah, we found this other planet, instead of calling it Planet X and freaking everybody out, they call it Planet 9. Oh, yeah, it's just Planet 9, no big deal.
Well, you have to demote Pluto. You have to. It's a Kuiper Belt object, and there are others. There are many. And they're continuing to discover more. So unless you're going to have 25 planets, then you're going to have to demote Pluto. You have to. So I think that's the right decision, and it's just a normal thing to do. It doesn't compare all those Kuiper Belt objects and that are between 30 and 50 astronomical units away. They're not going to compare to the main planets that are in our solar system. Very recognizable gas giants, right? So that was a good decision. The Planet 9 object is going to be much too far away it's not going to move very much in a constellation, in a background constellation. If they knew where it was, suppose that it's in the Virgo constellation, it's very, very far away. It's orbiting the sun in one way or another. And it's going to move very, very, very slowly, very far away. So it's going to stay in the same background constellation for quite a long time. So whenever the Earth comes around, so we're moving 66,000 miles per hour. And as we're coming around and we come between that object and the sun, then we're going to have a gravitational pull there. And that's going to cause and that's just the gravity part of the equation. We're also having a harmonic situation with our solar system where the planets come into alignment and store energy and then release that energy. And that's what we're expecting to happen as the Earth goes into this helium focusing cone we're getting ready to go through. See, the interstellar wind comes out of this constellation, Ophiuchus, right here. It comes in this way. There's a helium focusing cone that is created by that. Let's go back to the actual time, and you'll see that Earth is getting ready to pass behind the sun relative to Ophiuchus. And there's been anomalies showing up in the readings for the last 3 or 4 years. The backside alignments were happening right on schedule, right exactly on schedule, 2010, 2011, 2012, exactly to the day we were able to predict, for example, 2011, 2012. That's whenever the Earth was on the backside of the sun relative to the black star. At the time, it was moving through the Leo constellation. Just below the ecliptic plane. You can see the ecliptic plane right here. This object's just below the ecliptic plane and it's moving this way. So when Fukushima happened, we were in alignment over here. Then when the recent event happened on April the 28th, 2016, the Vanuatu quake, the black star was over here. So whenever you take these quake alignments and these big quake events, then you can use the solar system as a compass, and you're tracking the black star moving left rapidly. I mean, it's moving fast compared to an object that's very, very far away. So the Earth changes that we're going to talk about have nothing to do with a celestial object that's way out in space. This thing is definitely close. Otherwise, Earth would come around and align with Virgo every year, and we'd have the event every year about the same date. See, so the seismic indicators are pointing to the fact that we have an interloper in the inner solar system, and it's moving left in the orbit diagram. Then we've been tracking it since Leo, and it's gone all the way through Virgo, and now it's just about right here in the Libra constellation, but this guy is already inside of Jupiter orbit path. Pretty darn sure about that. There's a lot of indicators that are telling us that. And if you're looking, we're on November the 4th, and Ophiuchus is right here. The Earth is preparing to enter the leading edge of that helium focusing cone right here. So what happened from 2011, 12, and 13, the Earth was over in this position, and we're getting our alignment event. But when we came around and went to outside orbital position, the 90-degree angle, and then came behind the sun, these events were happening 2 to 3 weeks too late. That's impossible if we're dealing with an object, the same object that we came between in April. That's impossible unless we're dealing with something more than just gravity. And that's what the research is leading us to now. Jason, James, Bill, and David are the physicist type people. They've come on recently, and they're helping me to understand more about solar system harmonics and about how the solar system is very similar to a molecule, and this being the center, the nucleus, and how these charges build up and released. And it appears to me, where we are now in the research, that this helium focusing cone has much more, there's much more going on here than just helium, just some neutral element. And I think that the reason that we've been having these events late is because there's something to do with the solar system